Well, thank you all for coming to this presentation. Like David said, my name is Lynn Babcock, and I'm Associate Professor of Dance in the Department of Dance and Theater. We have only undergraduate programs. We have a BA and a BFA in our department, and among those two programs, I teach many classes, but one of the classes that has my passion and my heart is a course that we call Dance and Technology. And in that class, we work from the bottom up, learning about two-dimensional design theory and how that affects the media and the media choices that you make when you're integrating that with dance. Students learn how to integrate dance with projected images and understand the resulting outcome of that. And it's very exciting because I get to watch them expand their notions of what dance can be through the use of technology. I also am the artistic director for a company called Satellite Dance, which is a collective of artists from various backgrounds where we work with media of all kinds and different disciplines, and we work to create original works. So I'm going to talk to you today about the nuts and bolts of dance and how it works with technology, and in the outcome, how it creates a place, a different place, a place that we can all resonate with because of our own experiences and memories. In dance, there's a knowing, and a knowing that places emphasis on the immediacy of the embodied experience through sensory engagement of self and other. The body is central to this knowing because it is through the body, the self, that we take in or receive information through the world, through sensory engagement, imaginatively, emotionally, intuitively, as well as cognitively. And we respond to the world through our actions. This type of knowing is inherent in the dance practice itself, and it is tied intricately to knowing of the body, the self in space. I'm interested in exploring various negotiations of body and space, not just the body moving in, through, and around the space, but rather how we turn the seemingly void space into a place through the dancers moving. Further, audiences can feel the movements and connect not only emotionally to the dancers moving, but also through how the dancers connect with the space that dance created. This is about perception, and it's the point of my inquiry. Through dance, places are created, and audience members connect to their own sense of place upon experiencing the dancers moving. They do so through their memories and their experiences. In dance, inquiry into the question, what is the nature of space, of who we are, and our relation to the world in which we live, contributes to the performances vitally and imaginatively because it is through the body moving in space that we perceive the world around us and create meaning. The significance of bodies moving in space that is relevant here can be found in the notion that body and space are separate entities. In my research, I find that this is a dualistic thinking. I explore rather the body and space that they intersect, and within this intersection, I find an apex of borders. Not real versus virtual, but real in virtual, self in other, body in space. I do this by blurring polarities in relationship to the presence of dancers, the creation and interaction of sound and images during the performance, and the interaction with the audience. This is what fascinates me, the ways in which embodied existence can be redefined in space and cyberspace. So I use digital technology to examine the intermixing, the blurring interactions of the physical and virtual realms. Transformative by nature, the body and space intermixing with virtual space has the potential to shift perceptions, thus creating new expressions of meaning. And in this diagram, I just wanted to point out that you have the screen images or the digital images, wherever they're being projected or used and however they're being used, are constantly intermixing with the live performance. And at the top of that triangle there's a dialogue going on. And as a result of this interaction and this intermixing, the result is a new space created, a new place for interpretation. In my creative and scholarly research, I'm drawn to explorations of how and when internal and external spatial negotiations intersect. Consequently, within these inquiries, I find I am drawn to dynamic interactions that reside in thematic relationships between aloneness and community spaces. Choreography and performance with technology integrations create an interesting dynamic because they are altered by each other in the end process, creating a poetic otherness in performance. In order to investigate this relationship more fully, two dance works are briefly explored. The dances Humankind, that premiered in 2009, and Shade in 2013 provide a real practical look at the theory of embodied knowing utilized in all my research. We will conclude with live performances in a dance called Bloom, a digital media dance designed, choreographed, and performed by two undergraduate dance majors, Rebecca Lopez and Reina Mondragon. With the notion of liveness, one expects to discuss the idea of present time or embodied living, which is grounded in phenomenology. Embodied experience places our attention in present time where we simply are in the world. It places us at that existential moment of creating, of being in the lived experience of now. This existential moment of creating is liminal and can be argued that this is the most powerful aspect of dance. And it's liminal and it's powerful because it is a time when one is in between known environments and experiences and ways of behaving and forming new arenas of knowledge or in the shifting of identities of self. Grounded in the embodiment methodology which supports work of this nature, the conjoining theories of Pierre Bourdieu, Maurice Merleau-Ponty, and Thomas Chourdash are integral in examining embodiment. These authors emphasize the body as the generating center of experience, a body that receives and sends information to and from the external world and is situated in culture with all its habits and practices. The modern dance body is a socially informed body with its own unique moving behaviors and habits that are driven by the environment in which the dancer moves. This translates to the performance of self, which affects and is affected by the ways in which we interact with any given space. We therefore understand dance by experiencing the body moving in the space. When separated, notions of body and space have always been dialectic because of the ongoing argument that the body is both subjective and objective, and that space is not only contingent upon where the dance takes place, but includes construction and negotiation in and through space by the dancers and also the audience experience. In speaking about the body of dance, Ann Cooper Albright states the dance, unlike other cultural productions, relies on the physical body to enact its own representation. In dance making and performing, the dancing body is at once a representation of an idea, and it also is in process of forming. Albright describes this dual process as a double moment of dancing in front of an audience, as one in which the dancer is negotiating between objectivity and subjectivity, or being seen and seeing, or experiencing and being experienced, moving and being moved, thus creating an interesting shift of representational codes. A similar dialectic occurs when choreographing a dance. Experiential in nature, there is traversing or shifting between one sense of self and the other, and the alterity of self transforming into a new way of being in the body and in space. This moment of alteration is the most dynamic aspect of a work of art and in the dancing body because out of this dialectic, new boundaries become known as place. Humankind is a dance exploring metaphorical connections between physical geographic locations and the sense of place created through dancing the idea of those spaces. It's about creating a place between the live body and the image. Images inform the dancers not to be the images, not to be the wheat field, but rather to investigate the essence of what that place might mean for each dancer, inclusive of memories, perceptions, emotions, sensations, all of which affect the process. So in this next three slides, what I did is just give you a draft of the process. We took the raw data with the photo on the top left The designer, Kenneth Verdugo, started to deconstruct the wheat field into a different way of seeing and experiencing it while he watched the dancers dancing in response to the wheat field. So the designer was informed by the dancers, and the dancers were being informed by the designer. And the ultimate end process is how the two intermixed. Another area that we looked at was Bethany Beach fence, which is in Delaware. And what is interesting about the raw data in the top left corner is you see a fence and the gate is open. And if you look through the fence, you see where the land meets the sea and then where the sea meets the sky. And we thought that that was inviting because they set up boundaries, different spaces, different places for us to intermix. And the designer wanted to put a window frame in front of it to block you out, so perhaps you couldn't go to those places, but perhaps you could see through that and think about the other realms that were possible. And the resulting end is the image down below with the dancers pushing this fence aside so that they could go through the ends of the earth, so to speak, in their own dancing mode. In Aspen Trees, which is in Utah, we found that those trees really illuminated a brightness, reflection from the light that added this sparkling quality to it. So when they were projected from behind a screen and the dancers were there too, it was almost like they had become a part of this place in their heart and in their soul, making it very dynamic for them. So the dancers are also affecting and are affected by the space in which they move. There's an interplay between the dancer's interpretation of the landscape and the subsequent performance of self that is played out through texturizing the landscape domains through movement, stories created and told in this dance, and the intermixing of media that, when combined, creates a unique other space. Architecturally, four spaces overlap and frame humankind: the geographic landscape, or space that surrounds us, the inner landscape of self created through moving stories that were spoken and moved, the merging of landscape and body, and the virtual space of projected media that creates a uniquely poetic otherness. Place is created through themes of aloneness and community space and the powerful strength of the earth and in the human spirit. Shade. In shade, place is created through the journey of taking refuge or solace from destruction. This dance work mixes with interactive media, providing light sources that traverse colors from a pale color palette, whose colors change depending on where the dancers move on the stage space. The two screens with transparent cloth provide a silhouette of the live dancer, when behind the screens that juxtaposes the live, vibrant body moving in front. The exploration in this section was to score the idea of reflection of past memories. The dance moves into a section I called Shattered Glass. Here, random and abrupt light with accompanying sound create a stark black and white horror. So what happens with the light is that it's programmed to respond to the distance the dancers are from the screens. If they're close up, it changes, and if they move far away, it changes again. Randomly, the shapes have been programmed so they're never the same for each performance. The final section slips through time, where warm colors switch from screen to screen, responding to the dancers moving. The subtle light changes bring the journey back home from live body directly into the virtual body, creating a portal to return back to the home, back to self. This is still shattered glass. And then we move into the final section of returning back to home. So what happens in this particular scene, you have the four dancers that are paralleling the shape that you see in the virtual dancer, and they're all lined up in this way. They go into the shape one at a time. So the fourth dancer, when she hits that shape or moves into that shape, a live camera moves in and actually takes you through the pitch of that portal that you see there and takes you right into and through the bodies to the other side, which is another body standing, so you get the sense of returning home to the body. One of the simple things that I explain to new viewers of dance is that dance is most akin to poetry or sculpture for me. In poetry, you are asked to fill in the meaning around the words in the text, to find meaning in the spaces between them. When watching dance, an observer is invited to fill in the space around the movement, the structure, and the mover's performative choices, to find her own meaning for the work. American audiences in particular are awfully extremely uncomfortable with this level of personal power and responsibility in regards to watching dance, which is made clear by the relative stature of dance and poetry in our society. Sculpture for me is simply dance in stasis, which inversely might mean that dance is simply sculpture in motion. Again, the viewer has to allow herself to respond openly and flexibly to the work, since a work of sculpture rarely has a single obvious interpretation. So we'll close with this presentation with the performance of the dance called Bloom, performed by Rebecca Lopez and Reina Mondragon. Let's see, what do we want to do? I'm going to unplug this, right, Seth?
That's fine.
Okay.
Dicen que por las noches no más se le iba en puro llorar. Dicen que no comía, no más se le iba en puro tomar. Juran que el mismo cielo se estremecía al oír su llanto. Cómo sufría por ella, que hasta en su muerte la fue llamando. Ay, 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 ay. Cantaba. Ay, 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 ay. Que una paloma triste muy de mañana le va a cantar a la casita sola con sus puertitas de par en par. Juran que esa paloma no es otra cosa más que su alma, que todavía la espera a que regrese la desdichada. Las piedras jamás